We are a real estate investment company, general contractor, and we plan to flip a lot of homes, 100 this year. We want to build our rental portfolio to over 100 units in the next 5 years. And we want to learn more about wholesaling because we want to create a wholesale division of the company.
You've been in the used car. Well, I'd say you had many dealerships, right, in Ohio, and you have a few in Florida. And now that you've moved to Sarasota, when, by the way, did you do that?
Moved the family down in 2020. So we
What was the
vacation
reason
here every
for the
year.
move? Oh, okay.
And then
So it was
just, the intent was to move.
got it. And that was mainly because you liked the weather. You wanted to vacation.
Yeah, of course.
Live in that climate all the time.
And I have family here, so it made it a lot easier.
Okay.
And
then,
yep.
And we know you because you're in Collective Genius Select. So you're doing
Correct.
flips and wholesaling as well.
Not so much wholesaling. I want to get into wholesaling more. And we do a lot of flips. I have a good sized rental portfolio, and I'm trying to add to that. I'm trying to learn the wholesale aspect of it. And that's kind of why I came to Collective Genius, was to amp up the volume that I was doing and to get the insights from the guys that are doing what I want to do. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Right.
What type of volume on the flips or rentals are you currently doing?
So last year I did 38 flips.
Oh, dude, that's huge.
Yeah. So I didn't start real estate and heavy until about 3 years ago. And this year my goal is 100 flips. Whether I turn them to rentals, if I buy and hold, or if I'm flipping the property, a lot of times I'll get into it. If it's kind of stagnant, sitting in the market, I'll make a new game plan and I'll say, okay, I'm going to DSCR this property. It's going to be a rental property for right now. When the market turns around, I might look at another avenue on it. But that's
hey, Alan.
Yeah,
something that, and I don't want to hijack this whole conversation, but there's some details that I want to hear about. How in the world are you doing 38? Tell me about, first off, how do you have 38 different crews that are doing these for you? How do you find people?
So I'm a licensed GC in the state of Florida. I own a construction company also. So it ties all hand in hand. So all my crews are employed by me. And I keep them nonstop busy. So I basically got subcontractors, brought them in. I have some direct guys that work under my payroll. And then I have subcontractors that work 100% on my jobs. I send them job to job to job. And to go to 100, I can't do it all myself. So I actually just signed a lease on a real estate office in Venice, Florida. And that's going to be dedicated to my general contracting business and real estate investment rental management. And I have a couple sales guys that I'm going to bring in to help amp up on wholesaling. We're going to put focus on wholesaling and also project management on handling that type of volume.
Gotcha. How do you source your flips? How do you find the properties that you're going to flip?
So I have a pretty good relationship with a lot of local wholesalers. So they feed me quite a bit, and they know I'm a reliable buyer, and they know where I need to buy these things at. So as long as they're sending me good quality deals, I'll keep buying the deals. I'm with Kiavi. Alec Thomas is my rep. He made sure to tell me to point him out also. He does a great job.
Shout out.
So I'm a pro with Kiavi. And they've continuously raised the limits on, my exposure limits. I told them my goals, what I wanted, this is where I'm at. This is where I want to be at. I want to do 100. We're going to turn 100 this year. So they doubled my exposure limit, which gave me the limit to to go out and buy more than so I have a closing right after this. I close on 2 more on Monday. And then, so it's constantly, the goal is I need to close on 8 to 9 a month, right? To hit that.
So with Kiavi is a lender. For those of you that are listening that don't know what Kiavi is, Kiavi is a lender. But are they lending you? What are they lending? Are they lending you purchase price? Are they lending you purchase and
So
rehab?
as a Collective Genius member, they give me 100% LTC. I basically pay closing costs, title costs, insurance costs up front.
Right.
And they will, as long as ARV fits into that 75%, which is typically the rule of thumb with rehab, I won't have to come out of pocket with a ton of money. It took time to build to get to that level, but now that I can do that, it's nothing to buy 5 or 6 houses at a time and just keep them loaded in. And the beautiful thing is, because I own a contracting business, my contracting business is the one doing all the work on these projects. So it's I'm getting it at all angles. And I'm keeping my guys busy, making a little bit of money for the contracting business, and with the flips, whether I hold it to rent it or if I'm flipping it. A lot of houses are sitting right now in this market.
Yeah, there is.
And so a lot of the houses that I didn't plan to rent, I'm renting.
What's your average net on a flip?
18 to 20% on the
of the sales price.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's, if you had to, give or take, you have the good ones and you have the bad ones. And, but that's the typical. I've had a few I've lost on some of the higher dollar stuff. But for the most part, I do pretty well.
Going back to where you source your deals, you're saying you use a wholesaler. Do you know what your wholesaler gets per deal?
Usually, yes.
What the fees are?
Usually, yes. I know where they're at on it. And
gotcha.
If I think they're a little high, I'll typically get them down. And they're very flexible with me because they know I'm a very reliable buyer. And
what's a typical assignment fee that you see coming from one of your guys' deals?
10,000.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with it. If there's money in the deal, the hardest part is getting the deal. As you guys know. So they've done the skill set to obtain the deal. I'm more than happy if the numbers make sense to pay it.
Yeah, I've always said that it shouldn't matter. As long as the numbers make sense, it shouldn't matter if it's 10, 20, 30. As long as the end buyer numbers are going to be fantastic, it doesn't matter what you make.
I'm not mad at you.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, right, exactly.
All right, so 38 is what you said you did?
Year, yes.
Okay. So scaling up to 100, and you have a rental portfolio too.
I do.
How many properties do you have in your portfolio?
So I have 31 single families.
Nice.
31 single families. I'm building a quadplex. I'm a builder also. So we're building a quadplex at the moment, and I have a duplex being built also.
That is awesome.
Yeah. So I'm wanting to go into complexes. That's the next goal. I want to learn more about wholesaling and apartment complexes, kind of the financing end of it. I'm just not familiar with it. Typically, when I dive into something, I can catch on very quickly and run with it. But
and you will with wholesaling. It's easy enough. If you've already said this, I'm sorry, but how did you find your way into real estate? What interested you in doing real estate?
Good question. So my grandfather, we weren't super close, but he was always kind of I always looked up to him, and he was a builder, developer. He'd build apartment complexes from the ground up, multi-millionaire, helicopters, private. It was big time. And we got very close the last 7-8 years of his life, and I learned a tremendous amount of knowledge from him. And so I kind of looked up to him. I've always had that entrepreneur spirit. You know what I mean? You either have it or you don't. And just
Right.
like all of us in this business, you have to have that spirit to be able to move to the next level and make things happen. And most people in this business that are doing this have that spirit. And that,
What are some attributes of the entrepreneur spirit that you are speaking of?
well, you got to have a tremendous drive. You have to be excited about getting up in the morning, positive attitude. You can't be afraid to lose.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to lose a lot. That's
Yep.
the way it is. And if you're afraid of a loss, that's you're not going to go far, or because you're going to lose. And but yeah, it's fun.
It is fun. I think the fear of failure is something that holds probably everybody that wants to do it and doesn't do it.
That's right.
It's because they're afraid of failure.
That's right.
When the reality of, if you can change how you view failure and thinking of failure as it's just an opportunity to learn something that you didn't know how to do well, you get to learn to do it a little bit better.
That's exactly
So
right.
a lot of people will pay to go and go to college and get education through college, but they don't view failure as a form of education, but that's all it is. And if you can get away from that, which I think that is probably the most important attribute of an entrepreneur, is not being afraid to fail. If you can get through that, the sky is the limit.
Amen. That's exactly right. 100%. 100%.
David, do you have anything to chime in on this? We've been talking and we've been out of it.
Yes. I was curious. You had a lot of car dealerships. You sold some of those when you moved to Florida. How does the real estate business compare to cars, and why not just do more car dealerships since you already had that knowledge?
The retail headaches, partner. I was doing it since I was, so I didn't go to college. I started selling cars when I was 18 years old. Did well for an 18-year-old kid. Started making six figures at 21, and went into management. Soon I was general manager of big franchise stores. And when I was 35, I resigned, went out on my own, cashed in a couple $100,000 401k, and opened my first store, auto repair center. And at that time, I just had two little boys, or I just had a little boy, and I was at the store 80 hours a week. I didn't have, I made a phenomenal living, but I didn't have a life. I didn't have a life outside of that. So it was, now that I had a son, there was more important things for me to prioritize. And so I came home. I didn't even tell my wife. I just told her I resigned from the job because she's too cautious. She's too overly cautious. She tried to talk me out of it. And I already had in the back of my mind I was going to do it. And I already had the game plan. So I opened a service center, opened a store in Pickle, Ohio. Store did very well. We were the number one independent dealer in the entire region. And then before you know it, I paid cash for another commercial dealership. And then I opened another store, and I had 4 stores. But it got to what happened was my son could be there with me, but at that time I had 28 employees. It got to the point where it was just too overwhelming. And let's face it, the used car business doesn't have the best name. And it's the headaches. It's everyday headaches that were involved with it. Granted, we get plenty of headaches in the real estate business, but it's a different type of headache.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah, what kind of headaches do you get?
Check engine light. Somebody that buys a car and has a check engine light that pops up, that's an O2 sensor. That's our fault that they bought a year and a half ago. What are we going to do about, just threatening phone call. It's just it's that persona in the car business. And there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with people that do it. It provides a very good living to a lot of people. But I was in it for, I'm 43, but I've been doing it since I was 18. And I've now been in the business for 25 years. About when I came to Florida, I owned a couple rentals. So that's why we sold off. I kept one store in Ohio, brought a partner in to run that, and then opened one store in Florida. That because I have a house in Ohio also. So when I go back and forth, they send me a car from the dealership. I take a car from the dealer. You know what I mean? It's just convenient. It's very convenient. But we also have a construction company up there in Ohio also. I'll go into that in a minute. But up until about 3 years ago is when I really got into real estate heavily. I knew that real estate, I saw what it set up my grandfather for. Long story short, my dad had a disease called ataxia, where he got, and his two brothers had the same disease, and it hits him at about 50 years old. And I have a very high chance that I'm going to have that. And it's a debilitating disease where it just your mobility completely goes away, your ability to speak, your ability to chew, everything. I mean, everything you do, all your mobile skills are gone. So you slur heavily. So I have a high risk of that. I could get tested and find out whether I have that or not, but there is no cure for it whatsoever. There's nothing they can do about it. There's not a lot of research on the disease, and I don't want to know. So I'm going to do everything that I possibly can to set my family up for future success and long-term wealth. This is my time to shine. You know what I mean? And real estate is what's going to provide that for me. The used car business it's only going to be as successful as I make it if I'm there making it successful. And when I'm not there, real estate is something that goes on and on and on. If I acquire a certain amount of real estate investments, my wife and my kids will be set up for a very, very long time. And I bring every day my kids off school during the summer. They're at the dealership with me. They're at the office watching me walk the deals. What I do every morning, I'm in the office 6 days a week at 7:30 a.m. 6 days a week, rain or shine. I'm always here. And that's just what I do. I'm only in the office typically till noon. I'll be out doing the real estate deals. But that's just the way that certain people are programmed. And that's the way that that's what I have to do.
Man, that's scary. And man, I'm so sorry about your dad. And I sure hope you don't have it. But I love the passion about, hey, this is urgent. This is what I need to do for my family.
Exactly. That's right.
That is your why. And that is like the most heartfelt why. I mean, everybody's why in business is serious. I mean, mine is my family as well. Mm-hmm. But that is the sense of urgency that you have on doing this and doing this now. I mean, if everybody just treated it like that, even if your circumstances aren't that way, just go and attack it the same way. Like, I think that'd be really effective on anybody's business. But man, that is crazy. Now I just want to see you get to 100 as fast as possible.
That's where we're going, partner. So this year, I've closed on. So this year in January so far, I've closed on 6. I have 3 more scheduled. I have one in an hour. I got a closing in Sarasota. Yep. I have, and then I got 2 more next week. So I'll be at 9 for the month. I've closed on, and we have. I try to schedule them. Obviously, I don't want to start paying interest on a property unless I have a crew in place ready to go. I'll try to plan those closings accordingly so the clock doesn't start.
Yep.
And but I do a pretty good job at it. But I'm doing it myself, and that's why I'm opening a real estate office in Venice, and we're going to dedicate to learn more about wholesaling, project management of the flips, to do it as efficient, cost wise, do the jobs as efficient and quickly as possible. And I think with doing that, it's going to put more focus on the real estate side of it, because that's where my focus is. It's 100% real estate, and it's building that rental portfolio, but also tying into with everything else that real estate has to offer. The flipping provides income to all my guys, a very good living, and the money that I make off flipping, I use it. I just roll it from one deal to the next, and as the stack gets taller, I keep buying rentals. Because that's the end goal, is to have a large rental portfolio, and that money is making me to make more long-term money on rental investments.
Yeah. Alan, I know one of the things you said was you wanted to get into wholesaling, and Ryan actually happens to do a lot of wholesaling. And, what are you doing? 40, 50 deals on the wholesaling side this year, Ryan?
Yeah, we've averaged about 50 transactions a year.
Okay.
But we've done early on in our game, like my first year I did 73, second year I did 115. And then I learned how to wholesale better, and I don't have to do that much volume to make that much money.
Sure.
So yeah, we've scaled back in the number of deals that we do, but our revenue has continued to grow year over year. So
awesome.
I would love to talk to you about wholesaling and see if I can help you do it.
Criteria.
Let's do it on the podcast as well.
Very much. Go ahead.
Alan, do you have any questions? Right.
Yeah. What questions? How can I help you now?
So, well, it's more on the wholesaling side of it.
Yeah.
And that's I see bits and pieces of how the guys are doing it. I guess one of the big things is what is your main source for your leads, where you're getting them from?
Okay.
To reach out to them.
My main source for all of my leads are the most time-consuming thing, but the most effective thing, and that is driving for dollars. So David obviously made this amazing app called DealMachine.
Yep.
I go around and I drive. Yesterday alone, I added 250 new leads yesterday.
Okay.
And so we go out and we drive our market, and we add lead after lead after lead of distressed properties in any form of distress. It's not just boarded up windows. It's, it could be an old roof, or it could be peeling paint. Whatever the level of distress, I add the lead, and then I send out direct mail. And we are very passive with our marketing. I'm not like super aggressive. I send out direct mail, and then I wait for the phone calls to come in. On average, we send about 1,500 postcards a month from our driving for dollars. That generates about 40 phone calls inbound, which generates about 12 appointments. And our ratio is 25% is what we target. Of those appointments, we target 25% to get under contract. So we are averaging about 4 to 5 transactions a month just from those 1,500 postcards.
That's awesome.
Hey, Alan, you seem like a busy guy as well. So if you don't have the time to drive around, people have historically paid for people.
I have a team too. Yep.
There's also the ability for AI to look at the Google images and pick out the distressed properties. That's something you can do as well. Yeah, as a starting place.
Yeah, that's very cool. I'm going to look into your product. You said the DealMachine product. So I was my cousin's a realtor in Atlanta, and me and him flip in Georgia. We flip some houses up. I own Airbnbs also. I have 8 Airbnbs in the Blue Ridge Mountains, on the beach, and Sarasota, and the other coasts also.
Very nice.
But we flip, and he manages some of my Airbnbs up there. But I mentioned I was going on your podcast, and he knew exactly who you guys were. And he's, I use their product, blah, blah, blah. So he was telling me a little bit about it. Which
awesome.
was really cool.
That's great.
Yeah.
Let me say this, David, just plug your ears or close your eyes, whatever. This is not a plug for DealMachine, but it is the only thing you need to do wholesaling, period. Like that is, I have tried other things when I first started,
Yeah.
but it has always come back to the most effective way to get wholesale deals is just using everything that DealMachine has to offer. You don't need to go out and buy lead lists from wherever people are buying lead lists or pay for people to cold call. You don't need to do any of that. Like
Cool.
literally DealMachine has everything that you would need to get it done.
Awesome.
Non plug. I get nothing for that. David, you guys created a cool app and I get to be a part of a cool podcast. But yeah, I would tell anybody that. And I do tell, I've got 10 students that I coach on wholesaling and I tell them all, delete everything except for DealMachine. That's the only thing you need. So
Awesome. I'm definitely going to get it. I'm going to get it, and maybe you can follow up with me in a year and see how I'm doing.
I'll follow up to you in a month.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's fine.
We don't have a year.
Okay.
Alan.
All right. Hey.
You said you wanted to wholesale. Let's do it.
Yeah. Right.
Well, thanks. Definitely appreciate the love. And we been working on it for 8 years. Have helped a lot of people, but yeah, it's the driving for dollars. It's got the AI to look at the distressed properties as well as a lot of data that you could filter down to say, you know, this type of house, this type of value, and you can call or you can send direct mail. But anyway, Alan, I definitely can do a private demo, get you set up as well.
Very cool. Thank you.
But I was curious if you just had any more questions about wholesaling that maybe we could help you with before we sign off.
Jake, you got any questions?
Yeah.
So I got this is my nephew, Jake. He's going to be on.
Hey, Jake.
He's going to be part of the wholesaling division. So
Awesome.
What
Very
question do
entertaining.
you have for them, Jake?
What's like a good start off like markup that's like reasonable, like not to go overkill and keep it on.
So what he's saying is how are you pricing the deal? You're going off ARV and you know how the guys buy, right? So you're keeping that in mind, right?
Yeah. So the formula is you're going to take 70% of your ARV. So you find what the house is going to be worth when you're completely done. And you guys probably know ARVs better than anybody. So that'll be an easy thing to come up with. Take your repairs and subtract it off of that. And then take your assignment fee and subtract it off of that. And that should leave you, people call it the max allowable offer. I call it a starting point. And then I always tell people, make your offer under that max allowable offer to the point where you're uncomfortable giving the offer so that you have room to come up. So an example, let's take $100,000 ARV. That's an easy number. Okay. The house is worth $100,000. It needs $20,000 worth of repairs. So 70% of 100,000, 70 minus your repairs of 20, that's going to take you down to 50. And then your assignment fee of 10, that takes you down to 40. Okay. So if this is my lead, I'm going to call that seller and I'm going to say, hey, I ran my numbers. I would like to make you guys a cash offer at 30,000. Would you be against that? Simple as that. And then obviously most of these distressed houses, they're not going to be like, oh, I was thinking 80. You know, they're going to be pretty aware of what they've got. So, but that's the basis of where you need to start on making an offer. A starting point for an assignment fee. I learned the hard way. When I started, I was only charging people like a $3,000 to $5,000 assignment fee.
Right.
On average now, the minimum I ever collect is a $10,000 assignment fee. I try to get between 10 and 20 on every deal.
And you deserve it. I mean, if you found the deal, you 100% deserve that.
Absolutely. If you're making the deal for some of these other guys, there's no reason they should complain about it at all. Here's one right here, $12,000. Here's one right here, $12,500. These all closed last week, so that's what I target.
The drive for dollars thing, like, are you like looking up like neighborhoods that are like a little like older housing, or like, are you just literally just driving anywhere?
To me, it depends on what size your community is. Like my community is 76,000 population. So for me, I drive everywhere. I don't care good neighborhood, bad neighborhood, doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in something like Kansas City, you probably don't want to be driving around in $2 million houses.
Right.
So the way that I gauge it is if you spend an hour driving for dollars and you're getting about 25 leads in that hour, you're in a good market.
Okay.
You're in a good zone.
So
If you're getting one in an hour, you're in the wrong neighborhood.
you want 20 up an hour, 25 up an hour. That means you're doing an okay area typically.
Yes. And if you're anything like me, yesterday I did 260 leads driving for dollars, and I spent an hour and a half driving. So
Okay. Cool.
Good for you.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Do you guys do investing in Sarasota?
Yeah.
Yeah, Sarasota. So right now I'm buying a bunch of houses in Port Charlotte, Venice, Sarasota, Florida. That's where we live, is Sarasota.
I was just wondering. I was just in Sarasota, really for the first time. Dude, it is great.
Oh, it's
I loved
beautiful,
it.
man.
I had a great time.
The islands are unbelievable.
Is it
So-
your app?
Yeah, I wanted to show you that since
I
we were
just
talking about
downloaded
it.
that too. I'm excited to try it.
Yeah, awesome. I just thought it'd be helpful to maybe show you a couple things.
Absolutely.
Are you really looking for properties right here, or is this just too prime of real estate for you guys to be doing a flip or a rental?
Well, so no, I'm looking for. The two I close on next week are both in Sarasota,
Oh, okay,
Just
perfect.
did
So,
one off
and
B-Ridge,
one I'm
too.
doing one off.
B-Ridge.
Yeah, but off just north of Bradenton there, and south of it's on the Tampa Bay. I close on today.
nice.
Yeah.
Okay. What's like the price point that those houses are selling for?
It
Would-
depends.
or-
Sarasota has Sarasota's a more pricey. I think the median price is around 500 in Sarasota. It might have dropped
Yeah.
a little bit, but if you go out to the islands, the median price is $4 or $5 million.
Right.
So there's a big difference, and there's a bunch of country clubs and gated communities in Sarasota where I think there's.
Would you do
over $1 million house?
Would you do like a couple $1 million house flip, or are you staying
No,
more
I've been
towards the
staying
medium?
away from that. So
Perfect.
My
So-
experience, I've went to some higher dollar, bigger houses, and the holding time, it took so long to renovate, and
Yes.
the holding cost
Yes.
was so astronomical. I didn't make near what I thought I would make on it, and
Understood.
it was my biggest loss. So it kind of scares me a little bit.
This it would scare me too. This would be my starting place. I'd do single family,
Uh-huh.
and then price. There's an estimated value. I will do slightly over the median home price,
Uh-huh.
and well under as well.
Okay.
And is there a certain beds, baths that works well for
I like
you? Or
3-2s or 2-2s.
3-2? Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
3-2 or 2-2.
Yep.
So we'll do 2-2. Now it's narrowing down. There was 144,000 total properties. Now it's using these filters to narrow that down. You can see it's filtering down here. So I'll give it a second. See what that comes up with. The other thing we probably want to do is you want to see some equity, right? Equity
Yeah.
percent
Yep.
is greater than, well, let's just plug in. Okay, so now it's at 35,000. Let's do equity percent greater than 50. Now that should narrow it down even further. Okay, now it's 27,000. So there's a starting place. Now you could work with that list and have the AI look at everything. But one of my other things that I'll just tag on there if I want to limit the list down is tax delinquent, 691. So right there, I'd mark it to all those properties. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we probably want more than 600 properties. The AI to look at which properties are distressed, it does cost 2 cents per property that it looks at. So to have the AI look at 27,000 properties, it's we want to narrow it down as much as possible before we have the AI go look at the property. So 27,000 times 0.02 would be $540. So really not bad. But just for our purposes of this demo, let's try to narrow it down a little bit more. And I'll just give you this list for free. So let's say at least 80%. Let's see if that knocks it down. Oh, 18,000. So we're getting there. Ryan, what's another filter you might add on here?
No, I'm sorry to interrupt. What, with that contact information, what does that show? Where on that link?
Oh, Oh, I'm going to blow you away.
That's what I'm in.
So let's say contact language preference. Let's say you guys don't speak Spanish. Okay. Let's figure that out. And then let's also do absentee owner. Okay, it just filtered out 4,000 people who own those homes and prefer Spanish. So now let's do. I think owner occupied could be really great leads, but just for the purposes of this demo, I'm looking for ways to narrow this list down a little bit more. Why am I not finding the? Oh, it must be
owner
a quick
type
filter. Absentee owner. All right, cool. So now I'm going to have the AI look at these 5,000 properties, and that's going to cost $99. I'm going to do this on my account. I'll just give it to you for free. Identify properties showing visible signs of distress. So this is actually going to have the AI go out and look for these signs of distress. So you'll see, okay, confirm. And of course, this is on my own account, but appreciate you hopping on the podcast. I want to see you guys be successful as well as a fellow TV member. Oh yeah, you bet. And so, okay, it's going to start building this list, and we'll be able to look at it once it gets started here. It just takes a few minutes. But in the meantime, let's look at that contact info. So this property is owned by an LLC, but okay, yeah. So it's owned by an LLC, and they own a whole lot of properties, 1,000 properties in this LLC. You can see who's renting it based on where they register utilities and also, where they sign up for mail, et cetera. So this is the renter, but it's a sample of the type of contact info you get. So you get their actual age, their birthday, their phone numbers, and info about how much usage is on these, their emails, their net asset value, consumer type, credit card balance, even, and then related contacts. Wow. So and one of those things was language preference. So when we were looking at that earlier, we filtered by that. So you could filter by a lot of those ownership characteristics. So yeah, that's just like a sample of the contact info and how it works. So really proud of this. I would say this is what's driven our growth over the last year, 44% growth, eighth year in business. We came out with this last November, so 2023 November. So a lot of that was driven by this data. You used to have to skip trace, but now it's just there, and you could filter by it. And there's a lot of context for each person, more than just getting a phone number for the traditional like skip trace, and it used to cost 10 cents a property.
Yeah.
Alan, this is what I'm talking about though with DealMachine. Like, you don't need anything else other than this to get
I can
a massive start on wholesale.
Yeah. That's huge.
Well, I'll make sure and get that to you. But now you've seen how it works, and it's kind of cool. While it's doing the assessment, it throws up the Google images and it tells you what it's analyzing, and then you could see if they're distressed or not. So that's all that you missed. So anyway, appreciate your time, man. Any other questions or things we could do for you?
Not right now, guys. I really appreciate your time. Sorry I missed last week. And
no worries at all. Really glad we got to connect this week. Thank you so much.
I appreciate your guys' time and look forward to
and I'll follow up as well
in the future. Yeah. Yeah.
You're welcome.
You guys have a great day. All right.
Thank you. You too. And have fun at that closing.
All right, man. Thanks. Have a good one.
All right. Bye.
See you.
Thanks for listening to the DealMachine Real Estate Investing Podcast. Please leave us a review and follow along wherever you're listening to your podcast.